thank you for the opportunity. I decided that for this evening I would become devil's advocate when I was described as a flower by Mr. John Seymour. Now, I have never been described as a flower. And also, by implication, dishonest, because I must confess that I'm not a farmer. I'm not even a little farmer. In fact, I even hate gardening, really what. But being told that I was merely a flower, all the rest of us, and that the only honest person in the world is the man who grows food, I thought was going, as far as I was concerned, a little too far. Now, of course, I know exactly what you mean. The only person in the world who some people think actually produces anything at all are farmers. Mark you, they don't actually produce it, of course. It's the sun that produces it, and photosynthesis and the processes of nature. All the farmers do is to help it along a bit by digging holes for the seeds to go into, etc. In fact, the farmer, you could say, does less than almost anybody, any other category of person that you can possibly think of. The farmer is so overplaced, I think, in everybody's thinking that maybe for this evening it's my job to take him down a peg or so. Now, that does not mean to be mean in the slightest bit that I'm not a total believer in organic husbandry, because I am, and I always have been, and I think Mr. Seymour has had a lot of influence on me, also Mr. Newman, and also others, and I totally believe in organic husbandry, and I totally believe, I think, in nearly every word that he said, except that I was a flower, and that I disagreed with absolutely totally. But I found that what he was saying was a sort of judicious mixture of perhaps Hampden, Pym, John Wilkes, Cobbett of rural rights fame, etc. But it doesn't really belong to this day and age. And I really don't think that agriculture today is a matter for nostalgia, sentiment, or what one might call the Garden of Eden syndrome, because we have other problems. And you either talk about the problems of the country that you're talking about, or you talk about universals. And in agriculture, they are very, very difficult to amalgamate. You see, we have the problems now. We have the problems of what one might call the inner cities. There they are. There's no good saying that you would be better off tilling the soil. Where's the soil? What landowner, what farmer is going to give up 1 square inch at today's prices to anybody at all? Absolutely no one. We have unemployment. We have unemployment. It's a problem in this country. It may not be so in Lusaka. But to extrapolate from Lusaka, or even from New Guinea, no, not New Guinea. Are we new? Papua New Guinea. Papua, I must get it right. Papua New Guinea, or from anywhere else in the world, even Argentina or South Africa or whatever, because the problems are different on every little bit of territory in the whole world. And in this country, what we have to talk about is agriculture in the context of what's going on here now in this country, not what's going on in Lusaka. That's got nothing to do with it. I had a jolly good lunch in Lusaka once. It cost me £350. I mean, it's very expensive. I shan't go there again in a hurry. Now, have you had one cheaper? Oh, well done. Well, you would. With all your push and pull, you'd be able to get it for nothing, actually. Anyway, and then we talk about prosperity in Africa and so on. And we talk about progress towards, now this was a bit of a cliche, if you don't mind my saying. Progress. What is progress? And there was a hesitation. What was progress? And this is what progress was. Towards happier, yes, yes. Healthier, yes, yes. More contented, yes, yes. Integrated society. Well, now, nobody, I believe, in the whole world could possibly fault that. That is a brilliant definition of progress anywhere in the world. But you've got to link it back again to the agriculture and farming in this country, which is what you said that you were talking about, and it's what I think you were talking about. And it's no good extrapolating from Lusaka, Tanzania, back to Suffolk, Your friend in Sussex, who was or was not, yes, he was. He was using artificial fertilizers, and he couldn't stop using them. He was hooked. He was addicted, and he couldn't get out of it. Now, if you go to Hong Kong, one of those prosperous countries, one of those prosperous islands, I would say, in the whole world, they don't produce any food at all. They do produce some in the Eastern Territories, but mostly they import it all. Singapore, absolutely none at all. Fantastic, wonderful country. Wonderful, wonderful country. Singapore itself has moved up from being the 4th to, I believe, the 2nd biggest port in the whole of the world. Food? They don't bother about it. They import it all. They import it all. And if I may say so, there was a time before we, and I know I shouldn't really mention this in this company, but before we mentioned a certain organization of European countries which we did enter in 1972, with effect from the 1st of January 1973, we were the food market of the whole world. And because we were the food market of the whole world, and people who produced food all over the world knew that they had a market to sell it to, doesn't mean to say that we bought it to consume ourselves, but we were the market. We would buy the food, and they knew there was a market. But since we joined, I must mention it, the common agricultural policy of the EC, since we became members of that, we have ceased to be the world food market, and there is now no world food market. There are world food markets in commodities here and there, like sugar. Like sugar. The poor cane sugar growers, the most delicious sugar, the most efficient sugar in the world, is now being totally sunk by the overproduction of beet sugar in the common market, which is by selling off their surpluses, they are sending down the price of sugar on the world market so that cane sugar growers, including the country of this gentleman, can no longer sell it at a price that will bring them a profit. It is the most dreadful thing, but it has nothing to do with organic farming or any other sort of farming. Now, I live quite a lot of the year, at least I don't, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, in Portugal. And there was a time, I'm now onto the technology. I'm so against the technologists, I may say, but there was a group of farmers who came from near where I live. I live in Essex, near Saffron Walden. And they went down to Portugal and they said, oh, we'll teach these so-and-sos how to farm. What do they know? They're mere peasants. They've never been educated. They can't read or write. They haven't got television. We'll teach them. And they took down land-raised pigs. They all died. They didn't like the food. They didn't like the temperature. They took down Fison's fertilizers, completely wrong for the particular soil. They took down seeds from whoever it was, wouldn't grow. Everything went wrong. And those people who thought they knew so much better than the local farmers down there were wrong, because they didn't. The technology that worked in this country did not work there. And I think this applies all over the world. The people there know what they're doing, basically. And I would say, as an old-fashioned 19th century liberal, let them get on with it, and you will find success. So there we are. I don't feel like a flower. I'm sorry to have been described as a flower. I'm sure I'm very honest, and I enjoyed what you had to say very much indeed, but I can see that what you're really trying to do is to go back to the physiocrats of the 18th century. I had to get it in, you see, I had to get it in, because everyone ought to look up the physiocrats if they don't know who they were, because they were the people who said only the farmers produce wealth, and all the rest of us are just shuffling it around from hand to hand. But I don't accept that, because I believe that all of us who work a full day's work, whatever our work is, for an honest day's pay, are contributing to the total benefit of the human race. And I cannot accept that the farmers in this country or any country are more important than anybody else.